from CASSIUS IFL TV in association with MTK Global. We're in Sheffield here, ahead of an anti-Joshua Day.
Media Day.
Media Day.
Media Day.
I noticed at Starbucks, someone put a little heart on there. A nice man, yeah. Put a little heart on there.
Nice, huh?
Yeah.
Lovely touch.
Nice.
We're here, EIS, the home of GB boxing. Look at this institution. Look at it. Look at the facilities. What we need is we need one of these in every major city.
Yeah. Which you can poach all them fighters as well.
Ooh.
I take that back. You don't do that, obviously, so I'm going to take that
Fighters
back.
can go wherever they want. They just happen to go to the number one
You
destination.
send them. You tell them, go and talk to everyone.
I always do.
And then
Make
come
your
back
own
to me.
mind up.
That's what you say, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you can't sign with Matchroom, then you go and sign with someone else. So there's loads of options.
Yeah. Such a smug prick. Obviously, we spoke last night, and
Yeah.
well, I mean, is anything? No, nothing to happen because the deal's done for that last night. But has anything occurred since I spoke to you last night?
What happened? No, I mean, obviously we sent out the press release, dealt with all the international broadcasters who were happy. Most of them feel like it's virtually, it's a similar level opponent. Obviously, it's number 2 and number 3. Interesting to get a few people's opinion in the trade. Spoke to Adam Booth today, who thinks it's a much tougher fight than PULEV, which I wasn't too happy with.
Round-wise?
I think it definitely goes more rounds, but completely different styles, isn't it? I mean, you got PULEV is 6'5", quite awkward, rangy, doesn't really do a lot of work, but it's quite fiddly. And then you got TAKAM, who's 6'2", bulldog, who wings in hooks over the top and just works non-stop. So he's a handful. I think it'll be a better fight. Perhaps maybe
less dangerous.
No, I think he's a bigger puncher than PULEV. I've also got 27 knockouts and 35 wins. Probably hasn't quite got the same profile as PULEV, but I think it's a fight that will go longer. And listen, I hope Josh gets him out of there. It's not ideal. Don't forget this guy. 7 weeks ago, I did a deal with his team to make sure he was on standby just in case anything like this happened. So he's been preparing for 7 weeks for Anthony Joshua. And the deal was, if he didn't get the Joshua fight, he goes on to the Monaco card. So he still gets to fight and gets paid. But obviously he's been preparing for what will be 8 or 9 weeks for Joshua, and Joshua's going to be preparing for 10 or 11 days for Carlos Takam. So it's not ideal. Joshua didn't care less. He said, I'll fight anyone. We didn't really have a choice either because the IBF just go down the rankings.
Christian Hammer was next.
Yeah, was it Christian Hammer?
Yeah,
well,
then it was Gerald Miller.
So if Takam would have said no, Hammer would have been asked, and then etc. But I think it was about 10 minutes from the time of the pull-out to the acceptance, and it was only the acceptance of, yes, we've got a deal, but let me just call Carlos, and then he couldn't get hold of him for 10 minutes, and then obviously he called him. Massive opportunity for him to go and fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. And watch him fight. He's not a guy who's going to go in and roll over. It's a real fight.
Did you have to give him any more extra readies?
Who?
Takam.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, I'm saying is,
we had a deal in place, but it wasn't. You're not really in a great position when, it's like, yeah, we'll take it, but we just want to, So it was a difficult few hours but it's like anything in life. The more you get used to something, the less it stresses you out, the less it affects you. If that was 3 or 4 years ago, I probably would have been on my knees in tears. But you're used to it now. This is boxing. Things happen. You've got to make sure that you're ready for them. You've got to make sure you think on your feet. And we did all that, and we already knew what we were going to do in this situation. And we went and got it done. And, I'm very pleased with the outcome.
Touching wood that things obviously for you and Joshua and everyone goes well next week in Cardiff. Next year, he'll fight in March?
Yep, we've got February the 3rd held at the O2 and also March as well. So could be one of those dates at the O2, could be abroad. But the aim next year is to fight 3 times. So in order to do that, you have to go really in February or March. So, we'll see what happens with the Wilder thing. Listen, touchwood, he's got to beat Takam first. But I'm desperate to make Dillian Whyte against Deontay Wilder in February or March. That's the fight that I want to make. and I believe he wins that fight, and then I'd look to make Joshua against the winner of that fight in the summer.
So options for Joshua in March. Joseph Parker?
We have to see, yeah, Joseph Parker's a fight I think we can look at. We have to see what happens with the mandatory status with the WBA. Because obviously Ortiz, I think, has been banned now.
6 months,
yeah, 6 month ban.
Yeah.
And obviously there'll be question marks over his return. So yeah, we have to see. Really all focus on Takam, and then go ahead and the aim is to win all the belts by 2018. The end of 2018. So to do that, he has to beat Parker and he has to beat Wilder, or Wilder and a Whyte winner. But I'm really pleased with the Helenius fight for Dillian because it's the silver title. I think it's going to give him the #1 position in the WBC. And if they won't fight him for the world title, he has to become mandatory. So, by winning this title, he's going to be on his way to doing that.
With Helenius, who did the options come down to in the end?
Well, it was a mad situation because what happened was Helenius came here, as in Sheffield, and sparred with Josh for a while. Then we were talking about making a Dillian Whyte fight. This was about 8 weeks ago. So then Helenius decided that he was going to take a fight in Finland, I think a couple of weeks after October 28th. And then he turned down our offers, and I was quite gutted because that was the fight that we wanted to make. Then we looked at like Dimitrenko, then we looked at obviously the Brazil thing happened. There was loads of people, Lucas Brown, etc., etc. And then they phoned me up and said, look, we're not sure about this fight in November now. Is the Dillian Whyte option still open? And the answer was, yeah, absolutely. And that's a good fight, But people are very quick to criticise fights. That's a proper heavyweight fight. Helenius is 6'8". He can fight, and it's a fight to get Dillian in a position, I believe, to become #1 in the WBC and try and become eventual mandatory for the WBC title if we don't get this straight shot.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before with the WBC silver title, like with Callum Smith, the long wait before being made that mandatory.
Every situation is different. So if you fight a final eliminator when the mandatory's due, you're straight in. But the mandatory's not due, it won't be due for about another 9 or 10 months. So Dillian would fight in between that. He'll fight in February or March. Whatever happens, Dillian's going to box in February or March. And some of the guys who we looked at for this time around, if we don't get the world title shot, we look at there. Derek Chisora, Dominic Brazil, Lucas Brown, Jarrell Miller. So anything's going to happen, but it's frustrating because Dillian wants to fight all these people, and I spoke to someone on Deontay Wilder's team this morning about it, and I just said, look, it's a lot of money you're being offered here. Do you really see Dillian as that tough a fight? We can have this fight, and listen, if you beat Dillian Whyte, the route that it makes the AJ fight massive, and if you don't, I'll give you a rematch clause, no problem. So we'll have to see, but I hope that Wilder takes the Dillian Whyte fight. It's a massive fight. I mean, for you boys, you imagine the build-up for that. You'd just be like a kid with Viz.
With what?
A kid with Viz.
Okay. From the weekend, obviously disappointing for Jamie Cox, Wembley Arena, but one head of a shot from George Groves.
Yeah, great shot.
Faces Chris Eubank now.
Jamie was a bit reckless, but he knows that. But one thing I said to Jamie was, sometimes you get an opportunity and you never get the chance to give it a go, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you could walk out with a little bit of regret. The regret that he'll have was probably being a bit over keen. But it gave him a great roughing up for 4 rounds. It was very close until that moment. Great shot by George Groves. And Jamie will come again. I would like to see Jamie move to 160 pounds, back down to middleweight. But some of these fighters find it difficult to make the weight, even at 168. So how do you get the £8 off? Just get him into a nutritionist, have a good chat and a look. I think he'd be a real force at middleweight. I really do.
What do you make of Eubank and Groves?
It's a good fight. Good fight.
Who wins that?
I would say you have to make Eubank the favourite just because of the freshness and the style. But George is an excellent fighter. He's not. It all depends how Eubank can take a shot off Groves. And Groves is a clever fighter as well. So, but I just, my gut feeling at the moment is that it's Eubank wins.
You're a bit sick that you don't get to have anything to do with that fight.
No.
That is a big fight.
It's a big
isn't
fight.
It?
Yeah, it's a big fight. I mean, imagine how big it would have been.
Don't say what I think you're going to say.
What?
Please don't say what you think you're going to say.
What?
Imagine how big it would have been if it was on Sky.
No, I didn't want to say that. I was going to say if the 2 fights would have been on, free to air and not on pay-per-view,
right.
Because you could have really built. But it's a great fight. My relationship with the series. I've had involvement with them. I can't claim to be promoting Groves-EUBANK, unfortunately, but we can try. And I'm a supporter of it.
That Bellu's tweet the other day said that it's a good fight, but Callum Smith beats them both.
That's what we believe, but you'll probably get to find out in the final. But I think Callum's got a much smoother route to the final than the others, so he might get there nice and fresh. But I think there's so much going on in boxing at the moment. Everyone's having a go, everyone's sticking money in. It's a great time to be a fighter. More broadcasters than ever. Great time for boxing. I think it's wonderful. Any sport where you are, or any business where you are at the top or close to the top, if you don't want to say we're at the top, that is thriving, an industry that's thriving, is great news for everybody. You want to be part of a massive sector, a massive sport, rather than part of a small sport. Does that make sense? So I want the sport to get as big as possible, and that means everyone trying as hard as they can to make it as big as possible.
Is that your official media line, or behind closed doors you?
No, but I'm not. You know me. I'm not a bitter. I don't have voodoo dolls with other promoters, and I want the sport of boxing to be as big as possible, because then we will be at the top of a big sport.
Need to ask you. Obviously, I saw the fight hype video with Richard SCHAEFER recently.
But this is all your fault.
Are you?
Oh, Eddie, do the SCHAEFER impersonation. The amount of times I've said to you off camera, mate, I can't do the SCHAEFER impersonation because he's going to get the ump. I'll do it. Everyone loves it. Oh, go on. Go on, Eddie.
How many people in boxing can tell you what to do? Just out of curiosity.
No, but I wouldn't have done it if you wouldn't have said, mate, you've got to do the SCHAEFER impersonation. Do the SCHAEFER impersonation. So I do it.
Did I really do that though?
Yes.
Or did you really just...
No, mate, all of it. It does views. But I couldn't believe... I thought that Richard SCHAEFER's interview was a wind-up. When he was saying how disrespectful it was. It's only an impersonation. He's free to come on to Behind the Gloves or IFL and go, yeah, we got a great fight here. As you would do if you were taking the piss out of me. I think it's hilarious. But I didn't realise how deep it cut. And I felt quite bad after. And I hope the others don't feel that.
But I'm sure the first time you did it, this was in the car, this was about a year and a half ago, you did say...
sorry, Richard. I like Richard SCHAEFER.
There was no offence intended.
I didn't, but I just thought it was a joke. Like, I'm not he says, he's mimicking. I'm not mimicking. It's just an impersonation. People find it funny. It's like, maybe it's just a different sense of humour.
But after
any of my impressions are not there to offend. They're just people ask me to do them.
But after he got through the initial, about the mimicking, he said that he doesn't have a something KD. Hasn't got, wants to see you do well, obviously, blah, 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 in America and etc. He then gone on to have some serious digs at you. Like, my favourite quote from the interview was, my 100-year-old grandmother could have promoted Anthony Joshua.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening at the moment is, like, and this is speaking to networks and other people. So everyone at the moment, like other promoters, are on the Eddie Hearn attack. So, did you hear what he said? Like, sending people things that I've said in interviews. Brilliant, because they're all wasting their time.
How do you know this?
Because they're telling me.
All right.
People are sending me quotes saying, so-and-so's just sent me that you said this. I say, I'm driving them mental. Crackers. And I don't mean to, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It feels like, I always said, feels like it did here when we started here. Because we were running rings around people. And they were just losing their marbles. So, a couple of things to clear up. Number one is, Anthony Joshua is not off to HBO, because that was one of the things SCHAEFER said. We have a relationship with Showtime. We're very happy with that relationship. They've invested in Anthony Joshua. We'll see where that takes in the future. There's been no discussions of long-term deals with HBO, with Anthony Joshua. And the other thing, which people are going mad on, is I said, apparently, that we're doing 4 fights with HBO in 2017 and 2018. Then we're going to do 8, then we're going to do 12. That's my plan. I don't have a contract with HBO to do 8 fights in 2019. I believe that will happen. I believe there may be more than those dates. But my commitment with HBO is with Daniel Jacobs. So, and this is all people at the moment, like throwing their toys out the pram in America and just, okay, you've got to talk to Hearn. He said that, he said that. What was the other thing people moaning at? I said, if I take big talent to HBO, they'll give me more dates. I presume that's the case. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm on a recruitment mission to start stealing fighters and taking them to HBO. But if I take a big name fighter to a network, I expect them to give me dates. But honestly, you wouldn't believe the way people are throwing their toys out the pram. I mean, SCHAEFER not as much, but DiBELLA.
Yeah, I was going to come on to DiBELLA.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We saw a little Twitter spat months and months ago over Wilder and a few things, and
he went on the. The latest one was like, Eddie Hearn. He's a mama's boy. He's not like me, a Brooklyn kid. This is the guy who went to Harvard, by the way, and he thinks he's going to stroll into this market. And blah, 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 blah. You know, the other thing they had to go at me was the Deontay Wilder. You know, when I'd done that impression? Yeah. Apparently that was disrespectful as well to Deontay Wilder. Who personally messaged me and said that was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
He loved it, yeah.
These people, I don't know what other way to say it. They're just afraid. You know, why else would you feel the need to go on an unbelievable spat about me if you didn't feel threatened? You know. And Lou's, I feel a bit for Lou, you know, he's used to be the boy, and now, you know, he's sort of takes instructions, but anyway, I'm sure me and Lou's paths will cross, and I actually genuinely like Lou DiBella. I think he's a character. I think he's one of the good guys at boxing, like he's one of the characters of boxing, do you know what I mean? And all those characters, you know, they're all getting on and they're all sort of finishing their tender in the sport now, and the new wave's coming in, and Lou DiBella's done an incredible amount in boxing. He's just not as powerful as he used to be, and I think deep down that eats him up. But I'm sure we're going to work together. I mean, like I said, you know, even the show on November the 11th, we're working with Rock Nation, we're working with Salita Promotions, we're working with Greg Cohen Promotions, we're working with Star Boxing, Joe LaGuardia, we're working with Golden Boy Boxing. I have no problem. I don't have the fighters to do everything myself, so I'm looking to work with other promoters. No problem. But some guys, like it's this bitterness thing where they hate competition. They hate people coming on the patch. They should be thriving off it. They should be thinking, now it's getting warmed up. Because you know, when I've watched the Lou DiBella interviews and I watch the Richard Schaefer interviews, you know me. What do I think?
You probably find it funny.
No, but I just think, mate, it just gets my juices flowing. However motivated I was before, now I'm 10 times more motivated. When Lou DiBella tells me I can't do it, you know, I want to prove people wrong. I want to go out and I want to cause shockwaves. Doesn't mean I want to upset people, but it's going to happen along the way. But you know, people think the plan is to go out in 2018 and dominate US boxing. It's not. The plan is to build a business in America, to understand the market, to improve the shows, to develop relationships with fighters and broadcasters, and see where it can take us. All I'm saying is, would you bet against me? Would you bet against me in America? Answer that question honestly. That's not upsetting anyone. That's not upsetting anyone. Just answer the question. Would you bet against me?
No, probably not.
Exactly.
Probably not. One thing that was really outrageous that Schaefer implied was that your dad had given you everything.
I know.
I thought that was really harsh.
That was like one of those digs, you know, like.
It's true, but it's true. Yeah. But I thought it was harsh.
I think. Well, he says that. What was it? I got the Sky dates because of my dad. Don't really agree with that. Also, don't give a fuck. I don't care how I get it. I'm going to get it all. You know. But you play the cards you dealt. You play the hand you dealt in life, don't you? If I can get a leg up to get something, I'm going to have a leg up. You know. What do you want me to do? When I'm trying to get the dates from Sky, I'm using the Matchroom power, the Barry Hearn power to help my battle. What do you think? I'm stupid? I'm not going to use that? you've got to do whatever you've got to do to win. And, you know, Lou DiBella's right. I'm not a Brooklyn kid. You know, I wasn't born and raised on the streets of Brooklyn, but he did go to Harvard. Do you know what I mean? So he's definitely not as street as he seems, but, you know.
I mean, if I drop a few boxing contacts every now and again in the appropriate situations.
Yeah, but, you know, like I said, SCHAEFER says that I was gifted it from my old man, and Lou DiBella says I'm a mummy's boy. So, like I say, we'll have to see, won't we? We'll have to see if I'm any good. And the proof will be in the pudding.
Time will tell. Right, quickly. Show. Do me a show rundown till 17th of December.
So we have 4 crazy weeks here. You know, we've got this weekend a fight which I have to say I'm potentially looking forward to more than any other fight for the rest of the year, which is Ryan Burnett, the IBF bantamweight champion, against Zanik Zakianov, the WBA bantamweight champion. It's the first ever unification fight in Northern Ireland or Southern Ireland. You've got a great undercard with Highland against Ormond, which is a great fight. You've got Tennyson against Trainer. You've got pretty boy Josh Kelly back on the card. You've got Anthony the Machine Fowler as well. The week after that, the big one, 78,000 people with the roof on at the Millennium Stadium. Anthony Joshua defending his IBF, WBA, IBO heavyweight championship of the world against Carlos Takam. You've got Dillian the Body Snatcher Whyte, the man they're all avoided, against the big Nordic nightmare, Robert Helenius. You've got a small man over there, Cal Yafai, in my opinion, the #1 super flyweight in world boxing, against his mandatory, Sho Ishida. This is going under the radar. 24-0, 18 knockouts from Japan, highly rated, tough fight. Now let's make a bit of history. Katie Taylor challenging for her first world title. Joe Cordina, local boy, in his title fight. Dave Allen against Lemroy Thomas. And a light heavyweight fight that I cannot wait for. Frank Buglioni against Callum Johnson for the British and Commonwealth light heavyweight titles. Plus, 2 young superstars coming through. Joshua Buatsi on the bike over there. And also, Lawrence Akoli back on the card. Then, we fly out to Monaco. Oh, do you want a little bit of glitz and glamour? Because I'm going to give it to you. Dimitri Bivol against Terence Broadhurst for the WBA light heavyweight title. What about the big men? Should we throw them in? Derek Chisora against a European champion, Ajit Kabayel. What about a rematch for some smaller guys? Jamie McDonnell against Liborio Solis for the bantamweight WBA championship of the world. What about Scott Quigg? In my opinion, one of the top featherweights in the world, fighting Oleg Yefimovic in Eliminator for the WBA, sprinkling a little bit of pretty boy Kelly out there as well. What should we do after Monaco? We've just had 3 massive shows. I'll tell you what we'll do, we'll make our US debut. We're on HBO, baby, all day long. New signing, Daniel Jacobs against Lucas Arias. Great fight. What about big man? Gerald Miller against the tall, giant Marius Wack. Great fight. Seldin against Ortiz. Let's put the Destroyer on there. Let's take Conor Benn stateside. And then we come home and then we have a few weeks off, and then I've got Sprinkling a show early December, and then we've got Bellew Hay, December 17th, undercard being built. And let me tell you something now, I don't need no notes. I don't have to read off a little bit of paper down there when I'm talking, because it comes from here, and it comes from here.
Oh, plum. You're a plum, but it seems to work. There's a compliment in there somewhere.
You're a plum, but it seems to work.
Yes.
I think that's about right, really.
I'm interested in this middle show between New York and Bellew Hay. Possibilities of where? Can you just give me some options?
Yeah. Liverpool, Birmingham, Sheffield. I mean, we've got like Stephen Smith's got. Yeah, all these sort of fights are in the mix for Hay Bellew, and also another show. So you've got like Stephen Smith fighting for the European title. We like Rocky Fielding against Eric Skoglund, a fight that we're talking to Sowland brothers about. We've got O'Hara Davis. We've made an offer to Robbie Davis Jr. We like that fight. Nice bit of beef for you. We've got Gamal Yafai out in a big fight. We've got Gavin McDonnell's got to have a big fight. There's loads of others. Fowler, Tasha Jonas, Buatsi, even Cal Yafai could fight in December if he comes through. So it's just a case of balancing up where we're going to go for that final date. May throw in a next gen as well, because I'm loving those at the moment. And we've also got sort of 4 or 5 title fights for our youngsters coming through that could headline.
Chunky?
Yeah, James DeGale, you know, I'm talking to him about maybe coming out in December. I just think the problem is you've got so many shows that can you hit the numbers in a December show you know, in London, when you've just had obviously Joshua PULEV. I know that's in Cardiff, but still. And then you've got Hey Bellew, who's just done 17,000. So there's only so many tickets that can be sold. So maybe you're better off going to somewhere where there hasn't been boxing for a while. So we'll see.
Right, have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, just tune in on Saturday night for Ryan Burnett against Anik Zakianov. This is a great fight. Great fight, great matchup. Adam Booth against Ricky Hatton. 2 belts on the line. Ryan Burnett needs a lot of credit, because he wants to unify straight away. And we've got so many great fighters. Kaliafai over there, WBA super flyweight world champion. I said to him, he is so lucky to be in where super flyweights normally.
Who's making the old Edwards thing?
What do I make of the old what comments?
Charlie Edwards, Adam Booth.
They want the Kaliafai fight. I think that's an option for Cal in December. You know, Cal wants to unify, but that's not going to happen until March or April, probably on HBO in America. So I think you should talk to Kaliafai about Charlie Edwards.
I'm going to talk to him. That's what I'm going to go and do now.
Cheers, old boy.
Thank you very much, Eddie Hearn.